Floor, and you know what I'm talking about here on my channel right now.
You never want to become the story. That's one of the first things anyone learns if they work anywhere near media, journalism, or entertainment. You can report on chaos, analyze chaos, even comment on chaos, but the moment your own name becomes part of the headline, everything changes. Suddenly, it's not about facts anymore. It's about perception. It's about framing. And more than anything, it's about how much damage can be done before the truth ever gets a chance to catch up. That is exactly where this situation begins, not with a lawsuit or a viral clip, but with a warning that was ignored. At the center of this mess is Sherry Flaw, an entertainment news reporter and YouTuber who did not ask to be pulled into a legal and media war. She did not insert herself into a narrative. She didn't chase attention. She didn't coordinate with anyone. Yet, through a combination of implication, timing, and careless framing, she became positioned as a possible participant in a so-called smear campaign tied to Justin Baldoni. That framing came from one of the most powerful media institutions in the world, the New York Times. And once that kind of implication exists in print, the consequences are immediate and brutal. Sherry Flaw is not a strategist. She is not a publicist. She is not a political operative. She is a working entertainment journalist who attends press junkets, interviews actors, edits her own content, and uploads videos the same way thousands of independent reporters do. Her work lives in the uncomfortable middle ground of entertainment journalism, where access matters, tone matters, and pushing too hard can quietly get you shut out of an entire industry. That context matters because without it, nothing about this situation makes sense. Years ago, Sherry conducted a press junket interview with Blake Lively. It did not go well. Anyone who has watched the clip understands that immediately. The interaction was awkward, dismissive, and uncomfortable. Blake Lively was rude. Not criminal. Not illegal. Just rude. For most journalists, moments like that are swallowed, archived, and forgotten. You smile, you thank the publicist, and you move on because that is how the system works. You don't embarrass an A-list actor if you want to keep your career. Sherry chose that path. She did not release the interview. She did not write a takedown. She did not go public with complaints. She carried on with her work and kept her head down. That decision wasn't strategic. It was protective. Entertainment journalism is not a level playing field. Actors have teams. Journalists have deadlines and bills. So she stayed silent, as many reporters do, because silence is often the price of survival. Fast forward years later, Blake Lively becomes the subject of renewed public discussion during the It Ends With Us controversy. Suddenly, people are paying attention to her public behavior, interviews, and media presence in a way they hadn't before. In that moment, Sherry made a decision to release the old interview. Not as part of a campaign, not in coordination with anyone, but as an example. A personal experience that now felt relevant to a broader conversation happening online. The clip went viral. The internet reacted exactly how the internet always reacts. Some people defended Blake Lively. Others criticized her. Some dismissed it as a bad day. Others saw a pattern. That part of the story is not unusual. Viral clips happen every day. What came next is where everything went off the rails. When the New York Times published its reporting on the legal and PR battle surrounding Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, it included language that suggested certain online criticism may not have been organic. In discussing alleged smear efforts, the article mentioned Sherry Flaw in a way that implied she could have been part of a coordinated narrative push. The wording was careful. It did not outright accuse her. Instead, it planted uncertainty. It framed the situation as unknowable. It suggested there was no way to determine how much criticism was natural and how much was seeded. That kind of language is powerful. It allows a publication to introduce suspicion without taking responsibility for proving it. Readers do not walk away thinking, there is no evidence. They walk away thinking, something might be there. That is all it takes to permanently damage a journalist's reputation. The fallout was immediate. Sherry Flaw's name was suddenly attached to words like smear, coordination, and manipulation. Online harassment followed. Her credibility was questioned. Her motives were dissected. For a journalist, especially an independent one, that kind of cloud is devastating. You don't have a corporate legal team. You don't have a crisis PR firm. You have your name and your work. Once doubt enters the conversation, it sticks. This week, that doubt should have been erased. In legal filings, Blake Lively admitted that they found no evidence connecting Sherry Flaw to any coordinated smear campaign. That is not a rumor. That is not speculation. That is a formal acknowledgement in court documents. For anyone who believes journalism should be rooted in evidence, that should have been the end of it. It wasn't. Sherry Flaw reached out to the New York Times and requested a correction or clarification. Her ask was simple. She wanted the article to clearly state that there was no evidence she participated in any coordinated effort. She asked for the removal or revision of language that implied alignment with a smear campaign. This was not an unreasonable request. Corrections exist for exactly this reason. New information emerged. That information contradicted the implication. The ethical response would have been to update the record. The response she received was a refusal. The New York Times claimed that the legal filings did not undercut anything they reported. They pointed out that they had added her comments after publication. That detail matters, because adding a quote after an article is live does not undo the damage done in the first 24 hours. When narratives are formed, screenshots are shared, and headlines travel farther than corrections ever do. There is also a deeper problem here. The story was reportedly months in the making. That means there was time to seek comment before publication. There was time to evaluate the consequences of including her name. Yet the paper chose to publish first and clarify later. That choice placed the burden entirely on the person with the least power in the situation. This is where the issue stops being about Blake Lively or Justin Baldoni and becomes about media responsibility. When a major outlet implies wrongdoing by a working journalist without evidence, and then refuses to clean it up when evidence disproves the implication, it raises serious questions about accountability. At the same time, another strange thread entered the story. A little-known company emerged claiming that both Taylor Swift and Blake Lively were victims of bot-driven smear campaigns. According to this company, the same bot networks targeted both women. On the surface, that sounds alarming. But when people started digging, the cracks appeared immediately. The company had almost no public track record. Its branding revolved around controlling narratives. Its analysis appeared narrow and unscientific. It did not test a wide range of celebrities. It did not provide transparent methodology. It drew a straight line between two high-profile figures and presented it as meaningful without sufficient context. Naturally, questions followed. Who commissioned this analysis? Why did a company with such a limited portfolio suddenly receive coverage from Rolling Stone? How did this narrative spread so quickly? And who benefited from it? Many observers dismissed the idea that Taylor Swift's camp would be involved in anything like this, pointing to her silence throughout the year. Others looked toward Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, especially given the timing around legal filings and media coordination. No clear answers emerged, only more suspicion and discomfort. What became clear, however, was that the story itself was being shaped. Not just reported, framed, guided, nudged in specific directions. And once again, Sherry Flaw was caught in the middle. She became an example of collateral damage. A real person whose name was pulled into a narrative bigger than her, without her consent, and without evidence to support the implication. Her experience exposes the danger of narrative warfare, where stories are built on suggestion instead of proof. Sherry Flaw is not perfect. No journalist is. But she did not take money to attack anyone. She did not coordinate with anyone. She did not participate in a smear campaign. She shared an experience. That experience went viral. The rest was out of her control. The refusal of the New York Times to issue a clear apology or correction sends a chilling message to independent journalists everywhere. It says that implication is acceptable, that damage is collateral, that once a story is published, protecting the institution matters more than correcting the harm. This is how trust erodes. Not all at once, but slowly, through moments like this, where the facts catch up and the response falls short. And as the story continues to unfold, the question remains unanswered. When the evidence changes, who is responsible for setting the record straight? As the dust settles, the refusal of the New York Times to issue a clear apology stands out as one of the most troubling aspects of this entire situation. This is not about whether Blake Lively was criticized unfairly or whether Justin Baldoni's legal strategy was aggressive. It is about what happens when a major publication implies wrongdoing by someone without evidence and then refuses to clean it up when the facts come out. The paper's position is that their language already protects against misinterpretation. They argue that by stating it is impossible to know how much online sentiment was organic, they did not accuse anyone directly. But this argument ignores how readers actually consume news. Suggestion is powerful. Implication sticks. Once doubt is introduced, it rarely disappears on its own. Sherry Flaw's response becoming the story it claims to be covering. She did not lash out. This is not just about Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni, or the New York Times. She pointed out that the cost of narrative warfare and now confirmed there was no evidence connecting her to any coordinated effort. It is the people caught in between. Evidence and once their name is dragged through the cycle for a reason, no refusal to apologize can truly undo the damage. When new information emerges,